Hi guys, Spartan765, and today I'm doing a video on how to remove the cylinder on a Taurus Model 84 and disassemble it. Now this will be the same, essentially the same for most Smith and Wesson revolvers and older Taurus revolvers. Anything around this style of frame, this mid-sized Smith and Wesson style frame. Okay, the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure she's unloaded. Next thing you're going to want to do is take out this screw right here forward of the trigger on the side plate. Once you get that trigger or that screw taken out, push in on the cylinder release and then grab the yoke. That's this piece right here, and pull the yoke out, leaving the cylinder in its normal position. You don't want to try to rip the cylinder because of that little knob right there in the frame. It'll catch and you'll damage it. Next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take your cylinder off your extractor and bolt stop. Okay. Now how you're going to do this is you can just simply, sometimes they'll be loose, but most of the time you're going to have to use pliers. Now you're going to want to protect the finish on this, especially if you got a nickel finish like this, because nickel finish, we all know what happens once a little bit of nickel gets scratched or flaked off. It just goes from there. You're going to want to just rotate that right off. Just get it loose. And then turn the plunger out like this. Out will come the plunger, and this is your locking bolt. What this will do is this will lock the barrel, like when you got the gun loaded or the cylinder closed. That bolt will lock right back in there. It's called the locking bolt, and the locking bolt spring is on there. Next thing you're going to want to do is pull the yoke out. And then you'll have a spring in here. That's the extractor spring. Pull that extractor spring out. And then pull out the extractor itself. Just like that. Disassembled. Doesn't look too complicated. It's not. Trying to put the parts back together, if you're inexperienced, might be a little tricky at first, but you'll figure it out. They only go in one way. Next, you're going to want to put the extractor back into the cylinder, and you'll notice there's a little groove on there. That corresponds to a groove in the cylinder, as well as two holes here, or nubs, and then those correspond with holes in here. Now you just look in there and find that little groove in that track, and just slide it right in. Actually, when I got that out, I'm going to put a little bit of oil on there. These are the parts in a revolver that most people, the revolvers I've ever repaired for people, these are the parts that are in the worst condition usually, because people very rarely ever take their gun apart and oil it. This is one of the most important things on a revolver, to be oiled. Otherwise you're going to end up with cylinder slop and damage. Like when I got this revolver, the original gunk from the factory when the gun was made 30 years ago was still there, like it had never been oiled. And put your extractor spring back in, and drop your yoke back in. It'll be a good chance to, oil anything like this up too. Thank God when I got the gun though, it was definitely not beyond repair. I fixed it and it's working 100% now. Now next you're going to want to put your locking bolt. Whoop, there goes the extractor. Sometimes it'll fall out. Just slide that right back in there. Put your finger over it and then drop your bolt with the plunger side and the spring side in first. That'll go right in there, just like that. Now what this part does here on this bolt, this end of the bolt, that actually locks in right up here on the front of the barrel, or the midsection of the barrel. And then put this back in. well, this part locks in the barrel, sorry. This little spring right here, there's this little locking bolt right on there that clips in and locks in right in there. And you want to get that nice and snug, not super tight, but you know, put a paper towel over it and snug it up. Like I said, not super tight. Just tight enough where it won't come apart. Now see how much easier that is to move? Now, I'm referring to if you're taking yours apart and you cleaned it. And oil that up real nice. And then put the yoke back in the hole, keeping the cylinder in the position it would normally be when it's open, not forward or back. Close the revolver. Now, one of the things that causes a lot of damage to revolvers is when people cowboy them, and that's when you spin it and then you slam it, slam it closed. Put your spring back in there, or your screw back in there. Now what that does is that causes the cylinder stop to be damaged. Now the proper way to close a revolver, or to open a revolver, is to grab the cylinder, push the cylinder release, and then slowly open it. Not push the cylinder release and snap it open. The proper way to close it is to either grab the cylinder like this and slide it in, lock it in place, or just push the yoke in, let it lock in place, and rotate the cylinder till it locks. You guys got any comments or questions, or want me to do a video on how to take the side plate off and the internals out of the gun, trigger assembly, hammer assembly, stuff like that, let me know, and I will make a video on that for you. Comments, questions, send me a message. Spartan765 out.